Well, thanks for coming this evening. For those who don't know Heathcliff, he's been taking pictures now for 13 years, 10 of them on the Telegraph. Heathcliff and I met up by chance just on the eve of the war against Iraq. I didn't have a driving licence, he did, and I had the money, and so we ended up becoming travelling companions. Heathcliff has actually been there from the very beginning of what's been called the War on Terror. And I think, some of these are really remarkable images that actually give a sense of the human scope of what's been encountered in the various countries where there has been fighting right from the very beginning. As you can see, an image that I think everyone remembers where they were that day. And I mean, there's an interesting story behind this, isn't there, Heathcliff? How you actually came to be in New York for...
Yeah, I was actually in New York for New York Fashion Week and was sitting in my hotel room when I got a call from the office saying that a plane had just hit the World Trade Center. And I thought, oh, well, it's probably like a little Cessna or something's just hit, so I'll take my box and my monopod along and go and do a few pictures, then go and photograph the next fashion show. And phone up my fashion editor, who was in the room down below, and we just finished editing some pictures to send, and said, look, I've got to nip out. A plane's just hit the World Trade Center. And said, oh, well, couldn't you just send your fashion pictures before you go? And I was like, no, well, I'm not too sure whether that's a good idea or not. I'll give you a call in a little bit once I've gone and had a look. And it sort of proves that neither of us at that point really realised the magnitude of what had just happened. What I'm going to do now is to start cycling through some of the pictures, and then we'll stop occasionally and talk about some of the others.
I mean, I like this picture a lot because I think it gives a sense of the human intensity. I mean, you look at this guy's face, and he looks as though he doesn't know where he is anymore.
Well, he just appeared in front of me looking rather dazed, and I think he was a civilian who was just helping out with people that had been injured. I mean, the bizarre thing about it was I didn't see a lot of, there are people covered in dust and whatnot, but you didn't see a lot of casualties. In some ways, I mean, still to me now, it doesn't really seem real. It's more like being on a movie set or something. It was really quite bizarre, but his face just struck out at that point, and I was sort of, a bit of a panic running around trying to get images, and that was one of the ones I took. And then after that, I managed to move in. Once, there was a lot of panic. First of all, when the towers are hit, people were standing around watching, looking at the towers with their binoculars, eating sandwiches, and it wasn't until the towers started to crumble one by one that people really realised what was going on. And during the mayhem that followed, as everyone else was running away, I saw that as my chance to actually move forward and get over the police cordons and get in. And these firefighters that you can see here were the ones that actually survived when the towers collapsed. I mean, several hundred of their friends and colleagues were actually killed during the collapse. And as you can see, they're working from fire engines that were crushed and just carried on. I mean, really quite amazing that they managed to carry on working in such a situation, but I guess that's what they're trained for. And this guy here was just, sitting completely dazed. You can only guess what he must have been thinking at that point.
I like this one a lot. I mean, this is it's actually a kind of aside on what was going on, but I mean, it's an interesting story about how this one came about, because it's a combination of two stories in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, afterwards, in the days that followed, people who couldn't get in contact with their relatives that had gone missing started to put up pictures in an area called the Armory, and there were just pictures everywhere. And as the days went on, people became more and more desperate, and this picture, I think, just stood out to me because, the rain had come after a few days and the ink had started to drip, and it just sort of showed the passing of time and the fact that people were still looking for lost relatives who, would probably never be found.